They've always tried to manipulate the information, whether it be the owners or the players, to create narratives. But these anonymous sources, especially in the NBA, it's going to keep getting worse and worse. And one prime example of this, especially pertaining to the NBA, is free agency. Certain owners, when they want to manipulate a certain player's market, whether it be good or bad, now you could throw information out there with no accountability. And Mark Termini, and he was LeBron's agent, and he's the reason why Rich Paul is able to open up Clutch Sports. That whole umbrella is designed through a lot of his tactics. But he gave a lot of insight onto how, even before AI or just anonymous sources, how owners were always trying to manipulate NBA players into some sense of urgency to take certain contracts, or having them and their agent not fully understand their value. And we see this play out no further than NBA free agency, where there's just this imaginary deadline of having your deal done in early July once free agency hits. Some of the NBA players kind of feel like they're pressed and teams don't have enough money, and we've seen this narrative been pushed no further than guys like Woj. Woj, make no mistake about it, he works for the owners. A lot of the insight he gets is from the owners, and that comes with a price. A lot of narratives like, oh, he better get a deal done in July or else team's not going to have any more money. That's a narrative that the owners love to toss out there to have whoever's left over to take scarce deals. You guys can hear no further than from Mark Termini himself.
I know one of the things that happens today is almost all NBA business, probably 90% of NBA business gets done by July 3rd, maybe second or third in the off season. You have your words to negotiate by talks about patience. You operate in patience. When LeBron came to Cleveland in 2014, as you're discussing, 8 or 9 days before that decision ended up getting made. I mean, that's something that isn't a part of today's operation in today's NBA that, definitely is a part of the way you negotiated for decades.
Correct. And I think that's an unappreciated and sorely unused strategy that's there for agents and players. But the mentality and the psychology of the business now is, the players want to see their name on your network scroll on July 1st or July 2nd. By July 3rd, they can't take it. And I've marveled at some of the players who actually go on, on the record and talk about how stressful it is for them to go through negotiations or free agency. And they admit that it's very stressful and they want to get their deals done quickly. And they'll come out before the negotiations start and say, I'm looking to, want to stay here. And I hope they get the deal done quickly. And of course, I want to send them a copy of my book along with the forthcoming books about negotiating and say, you're saying all the wrong things, son. Okay. And whoever's advising you should advise you appropriately, because if I'm the team and I know that you're nervous, why am I going to give you the best deal on July 1st when I can save a few here and a few there?
And who else pushes that narrative harder than Woj? Woj, once again, he is getting information because he's low-key helping out the owners. And this narrative has always been pushed by him every off-season.
And I think we've seen, to put it in perspective, this gets a little technical, but in the $2 billion of contracts that I've personally done, I've done one non-guaranteed year. Now, the way the business has evolved, and that was a point of, if you took a non-guaranteed year, it was like the team was getting over on you. It's like, look, that's paper. I don't want an option year. I'm not taking it. Well, we won't cite specific examples, but let's just say there's no longer that sensitivity. And NBA contracts are being reported in the media now the way football contracts used to be, and football contracts are being reported the way NBA contracts should be and took 30 years to be recognized as fully guaranteed versus NFL contracts that are not.
And once again, who's pushing that narrative? It's Woj. Woj is the one that's reporting these contracts. Look at the way he reported Fred VanVleet's contract, just for us to come find out months later it's not even guaranteed. Once again, they're pushing narratives that mainly, from a financial standpoint, benefits the owners. The NFL today, they just started reporting on the full amount of the contracts, but then they say, oh, only such and such is guaranteed. But they used to report it how the NBA reports it today, where they only tell you the guaranteed number.
It's really an amazing analysis, but
this complete switch happened with powers that be, mainly with the help of guys like Woj.
From an agent standpoint, and I am a money guy, I don't apologize for it. I try to negotiate the most money for my clients. I want to make the most money for myself. My job, those non-guaranteed deals are paper. And tying again the thread to some of the comments I've made, NBA cares, but not that much. I know that a non-guaranteed contract, if the player's injured, and we've had some recently, you'll see how much paper that is. And you try to take that option year after you're injured or you're waived to the bank and say, yeah, but Brian Windhorst on ESPN reported it as X amount of dollars 3 years ago. Well, you know what response you'll get from the bank when you show them that headline. So I live that. And I said, I'm not gonna allow that. I'm gonna fight as hard as I can to protect my player. You know, whether you refer to as a sheepdog in the book. My players are big, strong, tough guys. My clients and the current players are all that way, or they wouldn't be at this level. But the sheepdog reference is not a literal one, it's a figurative one, because they still need to be protected from somebody telling them on a team, hey, you know, we'll just tack on 2 non-guaranteed years. And you can tell all your friends that look at the ESPN headline that you signed for 150 million when it's really only 40.
And those same headlines today are going to be AI generated by random articles. Who knows? It might be another big company like SI saying that, hey, such and such is looking for a deal, but this team just gave out a contract to someone else and it's only early July, but money's running out. This has been a narrative been pushed by Woj, and at some point the owner is not even going to need Woj anymore to push some of these narratives. They can go ahead and pay money for AI generated content.
Whatever. I wouldn't allow that. And some players don't understand that maybe there's more there that they can get. Some players get it, some don't. I always took pride that the player was going to get the contract to the max ability that I had. And if that took a little stress and strife or a little arm wrestling, then they would have to deal with it. But
ask yourself, when was the last time you heard a player arm wrestling with an owner during negotiations in NBA free agency? In the last, I would say, about 10 years. It's almost like the deals are done off rip. We all know they negotiate ahead of time, but you never hear of just a negotiation being stretched out by weeks. And once again, that's due to the help of the narrative being pushed by Woj that teams are spending money. Players better hurry up and get theirs while the money lasts.
I always explain to them, and if they weren't with it, then we probably weren't right for each other. And I could kind of gauge that early on. So not every player was for me. It wasn't a flavor for everybody because I had a certain personality and tactic that I brought to the table. But the ones that stuck with it, I think would say now they lived. And some, you know, and they look back and they'll laugh. That's the easiest money I ever made. I'm not getting paid till November or advance in July anyway. So why am I going to sign on July 1st when I can get X amount more?